up on this very special edition of MTV at the Movies. We're in New York taking an exclusive look at X-Men First Class. We'll be talking to the cast and finding out everything you need to know about the most hotly anticipated movie of the summer. Oh, and I'll be getting a crash course on how to become an X-Man. X-lady. X-person.
You ready for this?
Let's find out.
Welcome to the show. I'm Alice Levine and this is MTV at the Movies. We're dedicating the next 30 minutes to finding out everything you need to know about X-Men First Class. Now, when MTV said to me, Alice, you're the gal to get the scoop on all things mutant, I said, okay, obviously. But if that's how we're going to roll, I need to be in New York, in a helicopter, and heading for a genuine US naval aircraft carrier. What do you know? They said, yeah, sure. I kind of feel like there's a catch. Ooh, the things I do for MTV. Hey boys. Coming up, I'm sitting down for a chat about all things X-related. And I figured the best way to know how it feels to be a mutant was to do a little superhero training of my own. So I'm here in NYC on board the USS Intrepid to learn how to fly, fire energy bolts and fight like a mutant. Easy.
If that ship crosses the line, we will retaliate with a full response.
X-Men First Class heads back to the 1960s and the Cold War to find out how the whole story started. And with kick-ass director Matthew Vaughn on deck, it was a chance to take the superhero movie somewhere it's never been before.
I wanted to take a sort of superhero genre but wrap it up in a espionage, Cold War political thriller. And I think as an audience you get everything you could ever want from a movie in this film.
One of the many spectacular things my mutation allows me to do is that I can read your mind.
Are you gonna ask us to think of a number between 1 and 10 now?
No, Agent Stryker, although I could ask you about the Jupiter missiles America are currently placing in Turkey.
You brought a damn spy into this facility.
The heart of the story is the first meeting between Professor Charles Xavier, bald, wheelchair goodie, and Magneto, helmet, cloak, baddie. But of course, they didn't start out like that.
How's that for a magic trick?
Young Charles is a kind of beer-swilling womanizer with hair.
With hair?
Were they all prerequisites for taking the role?
Basically, when they called my agent, they said, does he drink beer? She said, let me check.
And you were like,
They said, does he still have hair? She went, I think he does, but let me check. And does he try and shag a lot of women? And she said, most definitely, let me check. and then I confirmed all that. It's actually on my CV.
With the dashing Mr. McAvoy in place as Professor X, the next step was to find the perfect actor to play Eric Lenscher, the best friend who would become his worst enemy.
The whole crunch of the movie is about their relationship. So, I mean, poor James, I used to bring in every day for weeks, and every actor we were considering for Magneto would have to read opposite James. And James was like, well, why am I having to do this? You know, I was like, because I have to cast a chemistry here. And when Michael came in, the chemistry just was obvious.
Name's Xavier. Charles Xavier, how do you do?
Cheers. The fact that Matthew was going to be directing and James playing Charles, I thought that was a really interesting, mix of ingredients.
I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in to make this X-Men pie.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
We got on really well, and we've got a great sort of working dynamic, which I think helped lend itself to a kind of on-screen chemistry and all that.
Mac and Fass, as we like to call you at MTV. I don't know
right,
if we can... Can we get people using that somehow? Can we Twitter about that? Let's make that a phenomenon.
Macabender.
That's good.
It's kind of like the Brangelina of X-Men.
Well, we like to call you
Fassavoy.
Fassavoy, that's good.
Boy vendor.
Boy vendor. That sounds like a vending machine.
Of what? What is it?
Well, I don't want to know. Of something I don't want to buy. Yeah, moving swiftly on. When this movie starts, Eric is hunting the Nazis responsible for the death of his family, unaware that there are any other mutants out there.
The interesting thing about this origin episode in the series is the fact that it was nice to have an open, you know, and clean canvas, but with so much information to sort of go about painting it.
When these two kindred spirits meet, it's the beginning of a beautiful relationship.
Maybe, perhaps, Charles feels something of Eric more than he's ever felt and connected with anybody else before, actually, in a real kind of true sense. And in a way, he's found his brother.
There's so much more to you than pain and anger. It's good too, I felt it.
What do you know about me?
Everything.
It was kind of a bit of a bromance. There was a bit of a platonic love affair going on there.
Yeah, romancity.
Between me and you, do you kind of think Charles liked Eric a bit more than Eric liked Charles? I kind of feel like Charles was a bit of a like, can we be BFFs? And
well, I think, you know, the thing, yes. No, I think...
You possess a power no one can match. Not even me.
It is a tragedy that these two characters haven't managed to compromise and work together, because they would have so much to offer.
Killing will not bring you peace. Peace was never an option.
So lesson 1 at my very own Mutant Academy took place below deck, and they promised me a special outfit. I was thinking glam superhero costume. I was wrong.
Okay, this is the part where they teach me how to fire energy bolts from my body. They didn't tell me I'd be wearing this little number. So as I risk death or worse, bad hair, it's probably a good time for you to meet the new X-Men on the block. Hit it, boys.
So that's how I did it, but I'm guessing it was a little more involved for the real X-Men.
Try not to hit me, there's a good chap.
You're serious?
I'm very serious.
There's a whole new bunch of mutants to meet in this movie, and fortunately for us, they're all rather young and hot.
This is Hank McCoy.
How wonderful. Another mutant already here.
He's a very intelligent man, you know, humble and nervous.
So your mutation is what? You're super smart?
I'll say. Hank here graduated Harvard at the age of 15.
I wish that's all it was.
Unfortunately, one of the mutant powers I didn't manage to master was teleportation, so I caught up with some of the cast by satellite. I'm not gonna lie, this is pretty weird.
Yeah, this is very bizarre, and it's even weirder because I'm used to it.
Whereabouts are you? It kind of looks like you're in the middle of a forest, maybe.
I am. I'm in North Carolina, in the middle of a forest. I want to be called Mystique.
And while I was busy Skyping Jennifer, it occurred to me that there was a market for a mutant internet dating service. Maybe I could get these guys to submit a profile.
Dating agency for big feet.
You can show off.
You're amazing. Funny, slightly insecure, but working on it.
No idea what I'd give to feel normal.
He's quite angry, isn't he?
Well, there's this, you know, beast within, and there's this monster that he's trying to control. But I wouldn't put angry on the dating form. I think that's terrible.
She's a good listener and stubborn.
Okay, that's
what kind of guy.
Good. Yeah, you've left off blue, which is probably slightly misleading.
If you're using half your concentration to look normal, then you're only half paying attention to whatever else you're doing. Just pointing out something that could save your life.
Would like to meet fellow blue lady?
Fellow blue person. I think would like to meet someone who can understand what it's like to feel isolated. That's
really appealing on the dating website.
It doesn't sound great.
Me, please. So with all those mutant hormones raging around set, how did it feel for the older, more mature members of the cast? Did you and Michael kind of feel a little bit like there were some young upstarts on the set? Did you feel a bit more
like
mature? I didn't use the OM combo.
Good, don't, okay?
I said mature, come on.
I'm still hip.
And it's a really horrible feeling when you suddenly realise that you think you're young and relevant, and then you're hanging out with 19-year-olds and you suddenly realise you're just old fogies.
But it's quite good fun because, you know, I think this is probably the first set that I've been on where I'm not one of the kids.
Yeah.
Excuse me, would you mind if I just pour some Earl Grey tea?
Not at all.
Not being an old man or anything, but keeps me constant.
James was saying you kind of made him feel a bit old.
Trying to make him feel old?
Yeah, he was like all these young kids doing their thing.
No, he's just saying that. Mike and Fast with the ringleaders.
Well, that's almost it for part one of this very special edition of MTV at the Movies. But don't go anywhere, because after the break, we're going to have more from the cast of X-Men First Class and more from me, learning how to be a mutant superhero. And on that note, watch this. And welcome back to this very special edition of MTV at the Movies with me, Alice Levine. We're finding out everything you need to know about X-Men First Class. And I've been learning some mutant moves, as you just saw. Oh, what? You missed it? Ah, shame.
So, we've met Charles, Eric and the rest of the X-Gang in part one and found out a little more about the world of X-Men First Class. Plus, I've started my mutant training in New York on board the USS Intrepid. Yeah, I know. Cool. But now it's time to find out a little more about the bad guys, otherwise known as the Hellfire Club. Oh, and we'll be catching up with a couple of international pop stars. Confused? Just keep watching.
Mutants are too dangerous. They're collateral damage.
Humans, united in their fear of the unknown.
Is it more fun playing baddies?
Yes. Jason Fleming, who played Azazel, would like write things on the wall, like Hellfire, like eats X-Men for breakfast.
I got it in myself in the picture. Yeah.
Oh, so there's a definite rivalry.
Oh yeah, totally. We didn't talk. We were very method about it.
There are moments, definite moments where they're like, okay, now that tennis ball up there are missiles, and it just feels silly at times. So, but I mean, embracing that is what being an actor is all about. It's using your imagination.
The real enemy is out there.
And who better to take the role of Chief Baddie Sebastian Shaw than Kevin Bacon?
I read the script under a veil of secrecy, and I just loved it.
The world is primed for war, and I have you by my side. What more could I possibly ask for?
It's quite a nasty piece of work, but we don't really know a lot about him, so it kind of seems like he deserves his own prequel, because you kind of want to know what made him into such a...
That's a very good idea.
Just putting it out there. I should be your agent.
Let's go
Come
backwards.
on.
It's a type of character that honestly, if you took away any of the special powers and any of the explosions or the effects or anything, I still would have been interested in playing it.
Maybe it's the film's 1960s setting, but X-Men First Class definitely has a hint of classic James Bond about it, and some characters more than others. Was this kind of basically your audition to be a 007, James Bond bad guy? Because all you needed was the white cat, really, and then you'd have had it down. A revolving chair.
Yeah, exactly. Every once in a while, Matthew would tell me that I was slipping into a little bit too much of that. Although I think he called it more Austin Powers than James Bond.
Genetic mutation, the evolution of the human genomes.
Now, if Kevin's playing a Bond-style baddie, that means someone needs to be 007. And it turns out I'm not the only one to think that. I have to say, you pulled off the James Bond look to a T.
Okay.
Have you already started talking about the 007 prequel, perhaps?
No, I haven't. Everybody's mentioning the James Bond thing, which is cool.
Cheers.
But for me, I mean, I didn't go okay. You know, I didn't have like James Bond playing in my trailer before I went on set or anything.
Of course you didn't, Fass. Now, I figured the best next step for my mutant training was to try a little flying. Couldn't be worse than this, surely.
As you'd expect, X-Men First Class is jam-packed full of superpowered characters with the ability to fly through the air with the greatest of ease. Some of them rather glamorous. It can't be that hard, right?
It looked a lot easier on the film. I don't remember two guys having to hold them down. But now for some X-Men stuff.
That was pretty convincing, right? I kind of feel I can discuss X-Men action with the cast as an equal.
The stunts were crazy. It was great.
Was it ever scary?
No. The scariest it got was real. So they actually had me on wires, flying around in the air, which was quite high up, which was crazy, but it was really fun.
Yeah, and I mean, some of the stunts they were doing, dangling stuntmen from helicopters, chasing each other and like a few feet off the ocean.
Can you tell us a bit about the fighting sequences and your kind of training for that?
Yes, the fighting sequences, they're cool, aren't they?
Super cool.
I was in the Beast costume, which is quite hot and difficult to manoeuvre in, so training was, bit of bulking up and, yeah, sweaty, yes.
There was none of that sweaty business for the heavyweight members of the cast. They just had to wave a hand around. Can you explain this?
That different. That's not what I do.
Like this?
I don't do that either. Do that. It's two fingers.
This is why
man.
you're the profesh.
No. It was just in the comic books, and I didn't remember seeing it in the other X-Men movies. So I thought, come on, let's get some old school cred back.
Now you were very good at this.
Right. Yeah. Thanks.
But how did you do that when you were in front of a green screen? How did you convince yourself? There's a massive satellite there.
Just the same way you're doing it now.
Yeah, wait a minute.
Because you just proved it there.
Okay, so maybe I won't be raising a submarine, but that doesn't mean I don't have a few utterly convincing acting tricks of my own to show you.
I feel like the superhero training's going pretty well, so now it's time to kick some ass. This guy is a hardened professional Hollywood stunt coordinator. He thinks he's going to show me some moves, whereas in fact, I've got something up my sleeve to show him. So bring it.
So you think you're tough enough to be a stunt person, huh?
Don't touch me.
So you want to be
an
X-Men, huh?
And that's the typewriter.
The typewriter works every time. And wasn't our method acting amazing? They can't have done anything as tough as that in the movie. You pin a person's arms down, basically typewriter on the chest and just slap the face. So I don't know if you want to use that for number 2. Bear in mind.
Is that, what?
You bring me right back down to the earth.
Now, I promised you some international pop stars, and here they are. Take That have provided the official song Love Love for the X-Men First Class soundtrack. And I caught up with Robbie Williams and Mark Owen to talk the international language of love.
We were out in LA over at Rob's house doing some writing. His house, very nice. And Matt got in touch and invited us down to see the film. How everything came together for us, so it's very exciting. And have you seen this? Because that's the X.
But if you do this,
if you do that, it's almost
the
like
TT
the
sign.
Oh,
TT.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
So
Like
is that why they called it X-Men?
Like that one.
Yeah, you see, if he just turns a bit that way, it's
that one
almost a bit like an
less
X.
so, but when we do it with the hands it works.
Yeah.
Maybe don't use the tattoo for future interviews because that's not really
Maybe,
working.
yeah. It's the first time I've done it.
Yeah.
There's another
I do love me some X-Men.
Amen to that.
Yeah, amen to that. I say I'm a massive fan. I am a massive fan, but I don't know anybody's names.
Brilliant.
But that's always the case
So
with
do you just
me.
know kind of wind?
Yeah.
Magnetic
Boobs.
man. Boobs,
Boobs,
right.
sunglasses.
That's kind of what
Baldy.
they go.
I'm baldy.
And
Oh, yeah. Chafe. I'm Chafe. I am whimsy. That would be my special power. Whimsy.
So that would be the X-Men movie if Robbie was writing the script. But I'm curious as to whether X-Men First Class will succeed in drawing in the fans who don't know their Baldy from their chafe. Why should people who aren't necessarily comic book geeks go and see the film? But let's do it maybe telepathically. You need to send it to me. I'm just doing this to receive it. It's just my crutch. What's that? A Professor X solo movie? I don't think that's going to happen.
They're definitely going to give Angela her own film, so that's going to happen.
Yeah, I heard whispers outside.
Yeah,
actually.
no, it's like Catwoman who.
Those guys might be dreaming solo spin-offs, but what I want to know is, will there be a prequel sequel? A pre-sequel? X-Men Second Class, maybe? You might need to work on that title, guys.
Well, we don't know what they're thinking, really. We've talked a little bit just in passing, but I don't think they know what they're thinking really yet. This one needs to make a mint, and if it doesn't, it's academic.
There's certainly room, I mean, to develop the stories more. I think these characters came along really nicely in this film.
I love the idea of starting, if we do another one, of Magneto killing Kennedy, you know, how the magic bullet sort of managed to ricochet and go through him in so many places, and sort of imagine Magneto just doing this and bullet killing him.
I'm actually quite curious to see what happens to Charles in the next one.
You see, the thing about Charles Xavier, right, is that he's technically the most powerful mutant in the world, right? So whatever bad is going down, he can just go, it's done, fixed it, right? So they spend quite a lot of the other movies like knocking him out, or locking him in a cupboard, or taking him out of the game somehow so that they can have drama. So fingers crossed we'll find a nice way to keep me in the film without sort of going after 40 pages, do you know what I mean?
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed anyway, I know.
Who's with me?
And that, I'm afraid, is all we have time for on this very special edition of MTV at the Movies. We've picked up the lowdown on all things X-Men First Class, and I've pretty much mastered my mutant powers. So really, there's just one thing left to say. X-Guys, First Class the sequel? I'm your gal. Call me. Could be the blue one. Just stand in the background.